For those of you just joining us, just wanted to let you know that we're waiting a few minutes to let other people join. There are a few links down in the chat box. One of them is the link directly to Eat Fresh if you want to check out the website. And I also just added our integration toolkit link on the Leah's Pantry website that you can also feel free to bring up in your browser. We'll just wait one more minute. All right, I think we will get started. Welcome everyone to the eatfresh.org for food bank agencies webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll be talking about easy ways to incorporate Eat Fresh into your agency activities, especially around food distribution. So we will be covering a little bit about Eat Fresh, but most of the focus will be on useful features for food banks, food pantries, and partner agencies, best practices and effective strategies, examples of Eat Fresh integration, relevant print materials to support your organization, and a little preview of our upcoming e-learning modules, and then a few minutes for some Q&A at the end. My name is Jessica Sildorf, and I work for Leah's Pantry as the program coordinator for eatfresh.org in Southern California. And I'm joined by Erin Franey, who is the program coordinator for eatfresh.org in Northern California. So feel free to contact either one of us for information and resources. We also have a special guest today, Kelsey Ellis, who is the programs manager at Feeding America San Diego. And she'll be sharing best practices and effective strategies that the food bank and its partner agencies have used to integrate eatfresh.org. We'll also be following up with everyone after this webinar to identify your specific needs and the best ways to integrate Eat Fresh into your program. So keep that in mind as we go through the webinar. For those of you who are new to eatfresh.org, I'll give a brief intro into the website. eatfresh.org was created specifically for the CalFresh population by San Francisco Human Services Agency and Leah's Pantry. After about a year of development, it was launched on September 30th, 2013. It has USDA approved content, and we make sure to update the site with new information on a regular basis. For example, when the 2015 dietary guidelines are released, we will make sure to update all of the messaging on Eat Fresh. Also, just so you all know, Eat Fresh is categorized as a Policy Systems and Environment, or PSE, intervention. So it isn't meant to compete with existing programs, but rather to support and complement it. So a few highlights about Eat Fresh. The website is available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. It features hundreds of recipes contributed by our many partners, such as Nutrition Education and Obesity Prevention Branch, and Cooking Matters. Recipes have been the most popular section of eatfresh.org, but we also have a wide variety of messaging pages on healthy living and chronic disease prevention, food discovery pages, Ask a Dietitian online, and local county resources. For those of you who need more of an intro to the site, I recommend that you watch our demo video on our online toolkit, and you'll see the link to that toolkit in the chat box on the lower left-hand corner of your screen. So who is on our site? To date, we've had over 115,000 visits to the site, and 41% of those visits are coming from a mobile device. The proportion of visitors using mobile devices have been steadily climbing since launch, and we expect this trend to continue as we do more outreach and smartphones become more affordable. The majority of our users are brand new to the site and are using the recipes and discover food sections the most. Interestingly, those who visit eatfresh.org by clicking on a link from a partner website spend an average of 10 minutes on the site versus an average of 2.5 minutes for those who arrive through search engines or other avenues. So this is why our partnerships are so important, and we appreciate the work that our partners do to help us introduce eatfresh.org to those who would benefit the most from using this tool. So now I'm going to pass it over to Erin, who will talk about some useful features for food bank agencies. And I'm going to switch over to share my screen, and we'll do a live demo.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. So one takeaway point I want to emphasize is that Eat Fresh is built both for people who access food banks and food pantries and for agencies that distribute food. For many partners that we work with, Eat Fresh alleviates the burden of feeling like you need to be an expert in nutrition, and the content on the site aligns with USDA and SNAP Ed messaging, as Jessica mentioned. There are many tools and resources on Eat Fresh that food bank agencies have found useful. Kelsey will be speaking soon about how Feeding America San Diego and its distribution agencies use Eat Fresh to enhance. Now, I'm going to walk everyone through a few key features on the site to get the conversation started. We just finished redesigning the homepage of Eat Fresh at the end of April. So if you have visited our site in the past, it will look a bit different. Our new homepage better highlights the most useful and popular features on eatfresh.org, like the buttons to apply for CalFresh, WIC, and get information about school lunches. As agencies working with low-income Californians, Eat Fresh is an easy place to direct clients to apply for these benefits. The website will recognize your IP address and take you to the appropriate portal for your county to apply CalFresh. The recipes section of the site provides several helpful tools for clients and agency staff. You can get to recipes by clicking on the Recipes tab at the top of the homepage, or you can see a filtered recipe search results by clicking on the filters on the left-hand panel. If you are looking for new recipe ideas, there's also an advanced search option that allows you to limit your search based on a number of different indicators. So that's what is appearing on the screen right now. Those are those filters. So you can choose things such as vegetarian, salad, or low added sugar. If you click on advanced search to the right of the search bar on the recipes page, those filters will appear, and you can select multiple filters as Jessica has done, and then you can click clear all to reset the search results. You can also search recipes by typing in a food item. So at your pantry distribution, if something is being given out that folks are unfamiliar with or not sure what to do, then you can just search an item and then recipes will also appear. On individual recipe pages, you can use the toolbar to print out recipes for your programming. As a warning, this feature is currently in beta, so you may need to tell your printer to only print the first page to avoid paper waste. You can also save recipes to My Recipes, collect them, and come back to your list later. So Jessica clicked Save, and then the My Recipes button in the upper right-hand corner is where you will find that recipe. Another feature I wanted to mention here that I have found useful in my own work, and I think is also useful for food bank agencies, have over ingredients on a recipe to show suggested substitutions. I find that people appreciate how Eat Fresh takes a recipe and makes it flexible, recognizing that they may not have the exact ingredients, but can easily swap based on their dietary preferences, what they receive at a food distribution, or what their budget allows. You can also click on an ingredient from a recipe and go to its Discover Foods page, where if you are in a group setting, as a group, you can pull information about the food, like how to store it and how to choose it so it's ripe, which is a great reference for participants unfamiliar with certain foods that you may be distributing. Two useful features for agency staff who don't have a background in nutrition are Ask a Dietitian and our Healthy Lifestyle messaging pages. You can find the Ask a Dietitian feature in the Community tab from the main navigation of Eat Fresh. I often hear clients I work with talk about health challenges in their families that I don't feel qualified to give advice about. You can direct your clients to Ask a Dietitian, where they can submit any nutrition-related question, and a SNAP Ed trained dietitian will respond to them within a couple of days. The lifestyle pages start with a barrier statement we hear commonly from clients and offer tips and information. You can browse lifestyle tips or pick a filter to limit your results. And one we wanted to point out here is the nutrition assistance category, which we think could be particularly relevant for food bank agencies interested in sharing more nutrition information with clients. So again, you can look at all of these barrier statements and then kind of pick what is relevant. And similar to the recipes pages, there's a sharing toolbar at the top where you can email those tips or print them or share them. My County Resources is a page with local information for clients. Farmers markets that accept EBT or food stamps, county office locations and hours, WIC and food bank information, local initiatives, and also has an Apply for CalFresh button. We want these county pages to reflect the most useful resources in each county, so please get in touch if you'd like to edit or add information to your county page, especially if you don't see the main food bank in your county listed on your county page. Email me and I will add it to the site. Finally, we often get the question of whether eatfresh.org is an app. It's not, but the website was built to be mobile friendly. This means that you can load it on your smartphone or tablet browser simply by typing in eatfresh.org. The website recognizes that you're on a mobile device and will adjust accordingly. In order to access eatfresh.org as quickly and as easily as you would an app, you can add it as a shortcut to the home screen on your smartphone. We have step-by-step guides that show you how to do this on both iPhone and Android phones that can be downloaded from our online toolkit and printed to share. This is an easy tip that you can walk through with your clients during food distributions or nutrition activities. You can download this user guide now from the Files window. So you'll see there's a couple PDFs and you can click on the one for adding Eat Fresh on your home screen there. Now I'm going to pass it off to Kelsey Ellis so she can tell us all about eatfresh.org integration at Feeding America San Diego.
Kelsey, are you still there?
Kelsey, you might be on mute. Just check your phone.
Yes.
Great.
Go ahead.
Hello? My phone is unmuted.
You're good. Go ahead and start.
Okay. Great. Sorry about that, guys. So my name is Kelsey Ellis. I am a programs manager, like they mentioned, at Feeding America San Diego. And I am just going to share a couple of ways that we as the food bank have been able to integrate eatfresh.org into a couple of ways that we have passed those along to our partner agencies as kind of a train the trainer model, because as many of you know, we can't be in all the places that we want to be at once. And so training our partners to be able to use this site is a great way to promote nutrition education across our network. So this first slide is an example of a way that we have partnered with eatfresh.org, as well as the San Diego Food Bank and our CalFresh services. This is one of the eatfresh.org recipe cards on the left. You can see they're really nicely put together on cardstock with the recipe on the front. And we created some tips on the back of some healthy eating, easy ways for clients to be able to get the nutrition that they need on the back. So as a food bank, we created the poster on the right. This is the PDF version of it. And it has the exact same rainbow information as well as the more information and resources referring to Leah's Pantry and eatfresh.org on the bottom of our poster. This poster we create a new one every quarter, and it has a different messaging tip. We have correlated that with the messaging tips that are on these Eat Fresh recipe cards. We currently did 1 year, so we have 4 different cards that have the recipe, the nutrition information, and then us as the food bank have the posters, and we send out them to all of our partner agencies and to our mobile pantry distributions for clients to see the same information on a poster. They're getting a recipe, so we're trying to create uniform messaging across our organization. Another way that we have integrated eatfresh.org into what we do is through our recipe demonstrations. So this is a picture of one of our nutrition interns and another staff member doing a cooking demonstration at one of our food distributions. So the recipe we used was from eatfresh.org. We provided the recipe card at this distribution. The families came, got the food, their fresh produce and shelf-stable items. We made sure that apples and oatmeal were part of that distribution. And then we had the live cooking demonstration of the recipe. They got to take home the recipe card, taste a sample, and then take home most of the ingredients that they would need to be able to prepare that recipe at home themselves. So we try and do this with the cooking demonstrations we do through our nutrition interns out in the community, as well as when we train our partner agencies to do these cooking demonstrations themselves, to do a similar thing where they are also matching the recipe with the food that they are providing to the families at that time. And eatfresh.org has, as you saw just a couple minutes ago, some really great recipes, easy to follow, and simple ingredients that someone would be able to find at a food pantry or at a food distribution run by a food bank. Another way that we have utilized not just the recipes, but the Discover Food section is their information that you can see on the left here, taken from eatfresh.org. We have a monthly newsletter that goes to all of our distribution partner agencies, as well as a newsletter that goes to our general public followers. And in that, we have a nutrition nugget, what we call it, and often we pull information from eatfresh.org to reference that information about the recipe and the vegetable or fruit that we are highlighting during that month, and then have a link to eatfresh.org for if people want to learn more information or save that recipe to their own recipe box. There's an easy way to do that within the newsletter that we send out to all of those constituents that I mentioned. And this is just an example on the right-hand side of what it kind of looks like in our newsletter. So one other way that we help connect our partner agencies with eatfresh.org is we have a nutrition resources portion of our website for all of our partner agencies. They have a specific login that is unique to them, and as part of that, we have nutrition resources here. As you can see, eatfresh is one of those links that they can click through. We're actually in the process right now of revamping this and including a brief description of what each of these links are to help encourage our partner agencies to click on these resources and utilize them to their fullest extent. So that is basically what we are doing in providing our agency's connection with eatfresh.org. Other ways that we try and do that, we have the fortune being here in San Diego of having a local branch of Leah's Pantry, so they let us know when trainings are happening. We invite them to those trainings. Leah's Pantry actually had 2 trainings specific to a region of San Diego, and we had about 11 partner agencies attend those trainings. We provided cooking kits for them to take home after the trainings and be able to recreate some of these recipes with their clients at their own food pantries. At these classes, the agencies created implementation plans of how planning out and setting goals for how they would take this information and continue to use it and share it with their clients moving forward. And we do check-ins to see how things are going, if they need more support, other ways that we as the food bank can help them continue to learn and pass along the training that they went through. We also have access to some of those beautiful cards that you saw earlier, and as we pre-screen individuals for CalFresh assistance, we give them recipe cards and let them know this is a great way of using your CalFresh dollars, making them stretch because they are inexpensive ingredients, pretty simple to follow recipes, and encourage our partner agencies to do the same as they are screening individuals with CalFresh. So that is kind of what ways that we at Feeding America San Diego have incorporated eatfresh.org into our nutrition efforts and have encouraged our partner agencies to do the same and continue using this fabulous resource to provide nutrition information into the community.
Great, Kelsey, thank you so much for sharing. I'm gonna continue to talk about some other examples and ways to integrate eatfresh.org at food banks and food bank agencies. So we have found that eatfresh.org integration is strongest when agency staff understand the site and introduce it during food pantries or other nutrition programming. Hopefully, this webinar has sparked your imaginations for how you could use it at your agency or with the agencies that you work with. If you live in the Bay Area or San Diego County, Jessica or I can do in-person trainings for your staff and provide follow-up support. For those of you in other parts of the state, we can certainly discuss online training and support options. So building upon the examples that Kelsey just shared, here are some other ways to integrate eatfresh.org. So as she mentioned, distributing recipe cards to clients, either in bags at food distributions, at recipe demos or health fairs as people are waiting in line. Hanging posters, so we have posters that talk about Eat Fresh in English, Spanish, and Chinese. So hanging those at your site if that's possible. Using the Discover Foods pages to show and refer folks to information about what they're receiving and printing those to include in bags for new or unfamiliar foods. I often find in nutrition activities, it's great to refer people to Eat Fresh as a next step so that a week or a month after they've attended that activity, if they are feeling inspired and want to be making healthy changes, but can't quite remember what it was that they learned at your nutrition activity, then eatfresh.org is a great ongoing place for them to find reliable information and the same sorts of messaging and concepts that they would have heard in any food bank or agency activities. Lastly, I think for agencies and food banks, if you use social media, if you send out monthly newsletters as Feeding America San Diego does, or if you have a website, then please link to eatfresh.org, share this resource in those settings. And then lastly, I wanted to mention one thing that partners in San Francisco that I work closely with have found useful is the language switcher on Eat Fresh. So if you are doing a cooking demonstration and you have a computer or a smartphone on hand and there are people who speak multiple languages that are in the audience, then you can be on a recipe page and then click on Spanish, and that same recipe will then appear in Spanish, and the same with Chinese. And that can be such a great tool when taking time to find recipes that are already translated or to translate them amongst your staff can really be burdensome. So we really hope that this is a resource that can really enhance and extend your work and help take the burden of being experts in nutrition off of you.
Thanks, Erin. So now that you've heard so many great ideas from both Kelsey and Erin, I want to review a few helpful print materials. So we've noticed that distributing print materials is a good starting point for promoting eatfresh.org. And while the main goal of Eat Fresh is to take advantage of the functionality and level of interactivity that websites can offer, we know that always having an internet connection is not realistic for introducing the site to clients at times. So the most useful print materials for food bank agencies, as we've mentioned a few times now, are Eat Fresh recipe cards, messaging cards, and our user guides, which you can find on our online toolkit. And for those of you who might have joined a little bit later in the webinar, that link to the toolkit is in the bottom left-hand corner in the chat box. A lot of the files in there are print ready, including these recipe cards and messaging cards you see on the screen right now. You can also request these cards from myself or Erin. We have 4x6 recipe and messaging cards that are perfect takeaways that will help remind clients to visit the website when they do have access to the internet. All right. So now that we've introduced a lot of different strategies that you can potentially use, I'm going to post a poll. So if you could just take a moment to answer. And the question is, how are you most likely to use eatfresh.org with your clients? and you can select more than one. Okay, thank you. That's just about everyone. And the last thing that I want to go over before we do a little Q&A is our new e-learning modules that will be released shortly. So these are a couple screenshots from our module on choosing low sodium foods. So we're in the process of creating 15 5 to 10 minute online modules that will guide eatfresh.org users through specific nutrition and physical activity topics and specific areas of the website. These modules will cover basic concepts like choosing low sodium foods, preparing a simple recipe, sugary beverage alternatives, and eating a rainbow of foods. You will all be among the first to know when this feature is launched. We will be sending out an email with details once they're ready. So please encourage your clients to try out these courses. They will be especially helpful for those who do not or are unable to access in-person nutrition programming. And just as a side note, if any of you still have eatfresh.org open in your browser, there's a button right in the center of the home page that will bring users directly to the portal for these modules once they are up. Right now, you can click on it and sign up for our text and email tips, and that's another way that you can be the first to know when they're ready and up on the website. So now I think Erin's going to facilitate the Q&A.
Yes.
So I pass it over.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. We would love to answer questions or hear comments. So feel free to type into the chat box anything that you'd like to discuss or ask.
You can also raise your hand and we can give you the mic to ask questions. All right, well, I guess if there aren't any burning questions, if any of you have other topics that you want us to address in webinars about Eat Fresh, go ahead and type those into the chat box.
And I also want to say one more time that we want to make this online resource as useful for you as possible and for the clients that you work with. So if you ever have any suggestions, if something doesn't seem to be working correctly, if you have suggestions for how to improve the website, please get in touch with Jessica or myself. And also, as a reminder, if your county page is missing information, has incorrect information, then also please email me and I can update that information.
Yes, and there's one last thing that I wanted to mention in the shared files that you can download. We have the slides from today's webinar, As Erin mentioned before, there's the guide for adding a shortcut to your home screen on your smartphone. But there's also a PDF of best practices for using Eat Fresh for food banks, which we recently distributed at the CAFB conference. So that's available for you all to download. And also the implementation plan that Kelsey mentioned, that she had the Feeding America food bank agencies complete. That template is also available for you to download in the shared files window. So please feel free to download any or all of those files and use them as you need them. Okay, well, I guess if there are no questions popping up, then that wraps up the webinar. Thank you all so much for attending. And we will be following up with everyone afterwards and making sure that you feel supported and that we can help you use Eat Fresh to your advantage in your program. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.